Now that we can connect our one-line components with buses, let's start developing our diagram by adding a real source. In my components library, there are a handful of source components available, but they all function in the same way, so I'll drag out a utility component. You've probably already noticed that I also have components in the Equipment tab, but we'll discuss how that works in another video. This component has a few important properties that I'll want to set. I may want to set the name of this component, but we'll come back to that in a later video to discuss pop-ups. Scrolling down, I need to set the active color. This is the color that the source will apply to a bus. I can either set this to the electrical standard of red to indicate the bus is energized, or I can set each of my sources to a unique color so I can quickly tell how my loads are being energized. I'll set this to red for now, but we'll make things interesting later. For the bus name property, I'll go ahead and connect a vertical bus component automatically, as we did in the previous video. If I expand my component in the object tree, there is another object called conditions, which contains a property called active condition. This field contains a Boolean expression to indicate when the source should be considered active. That is, whatever expression is entered here should evaluate to 1 for on and 0 for off. We will use voltage to trigger this source, but we may have a relay monitoring the incomer, or we could be using a run-stop status point for a generator. Right now, my active condition is set to 1, so the source is always active. I'd like for this source to be active when my incoming voltage is greater than 50 volts. To do this, just like with the basic binding, I'll first copy out my voltage item name from the binding window. By default, I can only bind to equipment of type source for this equipment, so I'll check Show All Equipment. Again, we'll talk about this later. I'll copy out the voltage item for my utility meter. Paste it into the active condition field, and then add greater than 50 to the end to correctly trigger the component. At this point, my source has all the required fields configured: active condition, active color, and bus name. I'll save my page now as one-line diagram and bring up the page in the Web HMI. If I had any errors in configuration, the connection debugger would pop up and notify me, and we will look at this tool in an upcoming video. As it is, I can see my source is correctly energized at around 480 volts and is energizing the bus below it. I can verify this data in the Live Data tab. This is all that is necessary to configure a basic source or a meter component. I will go ahead and add my generator source, so in the next video we can start adding breakers. Until then, thank you.